Hannah. The lamps overhead were scorching and utterly blinding.
I'm getting a tan from these friggin' things.
Globs of gray and brilliant stars crisscrossed his vision as Bennett fought to free his arms and legs, but still couldn't move.
I'm going to enjoy seeing the insides of eaved motels,
a nauseating, nasally voice with a French accent said. Their host, Doctor Neil-Shemaine, whom Madame Daphne promised would cut them into little pieces, had remained stubbornly out of sight since Bennett and Alex had arrived in this new hellish hole. A long shadow crept into the light overhead. Bennett's eyes focused on a pneumatic arm descending from the ceiling. A glossy, dark mass of pulsing material ran its length. At first glance, it looked like exposed blue muscle.
Ew.
Attached to the end was a needle, its point so sharp it seemed to fade rather than end. The blood left Bennett's face.
There's a ridiculously huge needle staring at me,
he said.
I got one too,
Alex replied from somewhere on his left.
Hush, hush, hush.
Neil-Shemaine spoke up.
Don't get all worked up.
His little feet scurried by somewhere on Bennett's right.
Trust me, Doc, you don't want to do this. We are representing some very powerful people. Top of the top. So it would be pretty stupid to harm us.
Bennett threatened without the energy to do so well.
Also, you don't want to go digging around in me. There's not much to see. Just some shrapnel and liver damage.
Yeah, Alex added. I was nearly vegan for 6 weeks before I died. How interesting could my insides be?
Silence!
Neil-Shemaine yelled.
Is this what humans do? I swear, I forgot until recently. Cripes, it's so aggravating. You try to get some work done and it's no wonder Unearth despises your kind so.
What a weird little guy.
Bennett closed his eyes, attempting to sense the Eve of the doctor, but saw nothing.
He doesn't have an Eve signature? So he's just a guy?
Bennett wished the knowledge that the doctor was human gave him more comfort than it did. Following he and Alex's ordeal in Madame Daphne's office, they were dragged back down the spiral stairwell, their heads forced low to disorient them, though Bennett was still able to count the steps. Passing the ground level of Rose Noir, they continued down at least 3 more floors before entering a shadowy cellar. Without a chance to look around, he was grabbed from behind by metal claws, forced onto a cold slab, and thrown under surgery lights. The slab tossed and turned under him, making it seem more alive than not, while its claws stretched Bennett like a medieval rack. The same was happening to Alex, he assumed.
And that's how we got to this fucking fairy tale situation. Happy?
Neil-Shemaine laughed.
Soon, these bioarms will plunge cryoneedles into your sternums. It's sort of a syringe, sort of not. But don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Also, I apologize for the upcoming lack of an anesthetic. We're not quite sure what your reactions might be, and I'm not used to trying to keep human specimens alive, so I guess we'll just see. Oui?
Why are you talking like you're one of them?
Bennett asked.
I don't know what you mean.
Neil-Shemaine deflected.
You're human too. I can see it.
No, see, that's not true.
The doctor said defensively.
Because just as those born of Unearth can traverse from one form to another, so can we No, I meant humanity. So can humanity. Those who are human, which isn't me. I can figure out how to do it. And now, with you two, I will.
Neil-Shemaine's nasty little voice paused, as though he were savoring the moment.
You prove what I've always wanted. Flesh, my flesh, can carry the Eve, just like you. I can finally be what I know I am. A scythe of Phobos. The secret's in there somewhere. In you. But we have to be careful, don't we? We have to take our time.
Neil-Shemaine laughed again, now on Bennett's left somewhere. How do we keep getting into these situations? Alex asked.
I swear I don't try to,
Bennett said, his eyes fixed on the needle overhead, causing his hands to tremble. Though he'd seen and done many horrible things in life, instilling him with a blunt, numb coldness, and had so far handled everything Unearth had thrown his way, this was finally breaking his will.
Angels and demons are one thing, but no one said anything about huge fucking needles.
Everything that had happened to Bennett since arriving at La Rose Noir, until this moment, had only made him angrier and antsier, which in turn made the small amount of rapture he'd gotten a grasp of fade.
How is being in a situation like this not supposed to make me fucking angry? How do I use rapture in this kind of shit?
He was not accustomed to feeling useless, and there'd been no ice on his skin in a long time. Alex had saved him during the bar fight.
Those are supposed to be my thing.
And Bennett had discovered no new abilities that might be useful.
I had it, the night in the gas station, when the wings showed up. But getting it back... Did I lose it already? Look, hey, Doc, I'm sure Madame Daphne told you a lot of things, but did she also tell you our asses are under the protection of the tribunal?
Bennett then heard buttons being pressed and a lever being pulled. The needle above him shifted and poised like a cobra about to strike.
Let's talk it out. We can make a deal,
he pleaded into open air.
On the count of 3.
The doctor shouted.
Ready? 1.
He's bluffing.
2.
The doctor continued.
Has to be.
This doesn't seem like the love Madame Daphne wants her guests to experience, Alex moaned desperately.
3.
Doctor Neil-Shemaine grunted, struggling. A rusty switch was thrown.
Wait!
Bennett shouted, too late, as the needle dove into his gut, piercing clear back to his spine, keeping him from mustering a scream.
Hurts too much!
Feeling his insides being turned inside out, and some good old rage fighting to pass through his veins, Bennett decided to let the feeling through.
Fuck it. Always worked in the past.
But getting angry only intensified the pain. It, plus Alex's screams, drowned out the room. Then, Bennett heard a door open and someone speaking loudly. There seemed to be an argument brewing. After a sudden yelp, the mechanical arm yanked itself back, its needle still oozing. Bennett coughed, taking panicked gulps of air as the cold slab tilted him upward until nearly vertical. The claws binding him opened, and he collapsed to the ground, finding only gray blobs in his vision. Closing his eyes and focusing, he found Al's signature, faint, but nearby, and another, also wrath, even fainter.
Awesome! You're not dead!
A male voice, much more pleasant than the doctor's, said. As Bennett's vision adjusted, he could see in his periphery. There were trays with tools like a woodcarver or a sculptor might have, and long tables topped with what might have been science equipment, but looked more like rusty power tools, covered in more blue muscle.
I know you,
Alex said.
You're the one I saw in the hall when I was with Nigel.
Bennett turned in the direction of the talking blobs.
Yeah, and at the moment, I'm trying to get you both out of here.
Bennett then felt a pair of hands help him to his feet. Blinking a couple of times, he found the janitor from Madame Daphne's office, smiling with friendly, half-closed eyes. The name tag pinned on his shirt read, "Hi, my name is Felix. How can I assist you today?" The oily-skinned, hunched-over Felix, who by all accounts appeared to be a man in his early 40s, grinned with the corner of his mouth. "How's the tum, my man?" Bennett pushed him away and leaned on the slab he'd been restrained to.
"You couldn't have gotten here 1 second sooner?"
"Don't mind him. Bennett is always like that." Alex was holding his own gut a few feet away.
"Good to meet you both,"
the janitor said.
"If you didn't scope the tag, name's Felix. Yes, this is a rescue, but I also want to let you know our chances of getting out of this alive are like less than 5%.
"That's fine. We were just playing it around too, so,"
Bennett said, stretching his calves.
"Yeah, if anything, that's an uptick,"
Alex added. Felix clapped.
"Great. Before we run out of here like goddamn sons of bitches, am I correct in assuming you have no wrath and rapture abilities?"
"I used to," Alex said, looking at his cold hands.
"I can see Eve. A little,"
Bennett said. Felix stared long enough to let them know that was pitiful, then perked up and smiled like he was searching for something positive to say.
"Well, I still feel good about this. So, next step. We can't go out the way we came in. Trust me, they'll be checking soon. Madame Daphne runs this place like a Phobos prison."
Felix ushered them toward the back, passing what looked like a giant computer, both ancient in its size and apparent wear, as well as futuristic in its beauty and simplicity, covering half the room. The screens were glass, but laid in a dark, slimy mass, similar to the surgical slabs. As Bennett hurried past, he spotted a skinny man with a huge mustache laid against one of the computers under an office chair, wearing a pair of slacks, a black turtleneck, a dozen or so golden chains, and sporting a fresh lump on his forehead. A pair of broken spectacles hung off his face. He was unconscious, with a wet-dry vacuum tube wrapped around his neck.
"Pretty much exactly what I imagined. All except the bling. That's a surprise."
Felix stepped over the doctor, holding a yellow wet floor sign.
"Funny thing is, I kinda liked the doc. He said funny shit sometimes. But..."
Felix set the sign next to Neil-Shemaine, removed the vacuum tube, and shrugged.
"You gotta watch out for those warning signs. Come on!"
He ran toward an open entryway, pausing when he realized Bennett and Alex were not following.
"Let's go!"
"We're not going anywhere until we know what you're getting out of this,"
Bennett said.
"Getting out of it?"
Felix fidgeted with anticipation.
"I think we can trust him,"
Alex suggested softly to Bennett.
"I don't care what you think," Bennett said. "I'm in charge when it's just you and I, remember? We need to be smart about this. Every single fucking unearthed weirdo we've met so far has tried to stab us, poison us, intimidate us, eat us, or order us around. And I want to know what your true intentions are."
Bennett finished, huffing.
"He's trying to help us. He's one of the good guys."
Alex was physically trying to budge him now.
"You still can't see it, Al?" Bennett asked. "He's got wrath inside him. He's not just a janitor. The guy was an imp. A demon."
Alex's face stayed blank for longer than Bennett liked. The teacher then took a couple of glances back and forth.
"Tell him,"
Bennett said to Felix. The janitor, who seemed confused by, perhaps, the severity of the humans' exchange, looked Alex square in the eye.
"Totally was. Though imp isn't a very nice word to use. What of it?"
"My apologies,"
Bennett said. The sound of thunderous footsteps began to grow within the walls. Bennett wasn't sure if Alex could hear it or not, but it made him feel a sudden urgency matching Felix's.
"I'm just surprised, is all,"
Alex said in a suburban beigeness that made Bennett cringe.
"Look, guys, yes, I was once an acid fire spitting monster who was basically a tail that hissed. But that was a long time ago, and I haven't used wrath in centuries. I also haven't spent much time around humans in like 200 years. So if there's something I need to know, let's hear it. 'Cause otherwise, why are you fighting the help I'm offering?
Felix shrugged cynically hard.
I myself make that pose on occasion.
The janitor impatiently held still, waiting for a response.
Okay, I changed my mind,
Bennett said.
What?
Alex almost screamed.
Yeah, I like him now. Let's go,
Bennett said, starting away with Felix. Alex gradually followed, muttering to himself. The trio stepped through the open entryway, now in a room filled with cages, colorful jars, and wide glass terrariums. Some were full of brown mush, others translucent green and yellow plants. Many contained the parts of what might have been various living things at some point, some translucent, others like stones floating in gel. Bennett's gut churned, aggravating his stomach wound.
Goddamn needles.
The cages stacked against the wall on their right were filled with creatures, both alive and dead. Most, at first glance, appeared to be earth animals. There were 2 dogs, mice, some cats, insects, and a few Bennett couldn't quite recognize.
Is that a smiling green armadillo?
What scared him was that none of the animals made a peep as he passed.
They're terrified of anyone entering the room. Fuck that. I know I've killed a bunch of people, but animal abusers can eat shit.
Leaving the innocents behind was difficult. All Bennett could do was bargain with himself.
I'll make it up to you guys, if I can.
A flash of rapture went through him. His shoulders went cold a moment before it faded.
Whoa.
Shaking it off, he hurried to catch up to Felix and Alex, passing a colossal cage at the end of the row. A skeleton was laid inside with a chain wrapped around its wrist. The thing was at least 8 feet tall while sitting on its ass, and must have been markedly bulbous in life.
Just ignore all this,
Felix said. Soon they were at the end of the freak show. A regular human-sized door, which was oddly reassuring, opened into a hall lit by torches. The trio made their way, sticking close to the black stone walls.
Which way to the front?
Alex asked.
That's not going to work, Wilbur,
Felix said with a nervous laugh.
A back door?
Bennett chimed in. Felix coughed.
Also not going to work.
Why not?
Because the Rose was put on lockdown the second you went missing. By now, Constance Mary and her goon patrol are hunting us like rabbits. She's sort of famous for never losing her prey.
So, if we can't use the front door, or the back door, or any other door, how are we supposed to get out of here?
Bennett whisper shouted.
I have no idea.
Felix continued strolling. The humans stopped their march and shared a glance. It took Felix a moment to notice.
This isn't where we stop,
he said, turning to face them.
Repeat what you just said,
Alex demanded.
This isn't where we stop? Does it look like we should? 'Cause...
Felix looked around, trying to see what they were seeing.
Look me in the eye and tell me you have a plan,
Bennett said.
Plans aren't really my thing. But you said this was a rescue,
Alex shouted. Felix shushed him.
It is. Chill out. I know just who to ask for help.
That's your plan? Get help?
Bennett asked, deadpan.
Always worked for me so far. How old are you again?
Felix asked.
I'm 36.
Oh, cool. I'm 3012.
Who is it? The one we're asking for help? Alex asked.
A friend,
Felix said bluntly.
Look, I've been working here a long time, and I'm telling you, none of us are ever seeing the outside of this building again without help. Luckily, my friend happens to be the strongest unearthed human alive. Just 5 floors up.
Bennett and Alex looked at one another, possibly for some sort of reassurance. Both simply shrugged.
Yeah, all right,
Bennett answered. Next thing the humans knew, they were joining Felix in a climb for survival, entering a service stairwell at the end of the torchlit hallway, moving with as much stealth as they could. I think I'm starting to feel some wrath coming back, Alex said, pumping his fists as if he were getting blood drawn. Bennett's stare went dead.
Great. Just in time, Al. Thanks.
Got a small jog once we get to the 2nd floor. We'll be exposed, so act casual,
Felix said, approaching a door labeled Level 2.
First, I'll make sure the coast is clear.
He opened the door a crack to take a peek, then stepped into the hall.
Be right back.
Bennett and Alex watched their new janitor demon friend move down a tan hall with brown baseboards and trim. Fancy golden sconces lit the way in hazy air that gradually swallowed the light further down the hall. Felix, moving a little slowly for Bennett's taste, turned to give them a thumbs up when a door opened up behind him and a security guard backed into the hall. Bennett recognized him as one of Chief Mary's crew. The guard spotted Felix.
Attendre! S'arrête!
He shouted, zeroing in on the janitor, who put on a dull grin and waved.
What do we do?
Alex asked.
Let him do his thing,
Bennett said. Felix's response was hard to make out.
Hi, how are you, fellow employee?
The guard moved in on the janitor.
No one is supposed to be out here. We're on lockdown.
I was just going to restock the toilet paper, Felix said amiably.
Don't care how locked down we are. People always need to go. Know what I mean?
The guard took him by his skinny arm.
Constance will want to speak with you. Sure, just let me get my things.
Felix tried to pull away.
We're going now,
the guard yelled. Things weren't looking good. Bennett needed to act.
There's a solution here. Think.
But he was too busy berating himself to notice Alex already sprinting past him, leaving behind a heat trail. Diving headfirst into the security guard, he wrestled with him on the floor of the hall. The teacher jammed his red-hot palms into the face of the guard, who let out a hideous scream. Balling his fists, roasting like charcoal, Alex pummeled him before he could fight back or radio for help, and left him an unconscious heap on the floor. Bennett hustled into the hall to join them as Alex leapt up from the ground, bouncing on the balls of his feet like a featherweight boxer who just won by KO.
Ooh, yeah, it's definitely coming back. I can feel it.
He paused to blow steam off his glowing right hand.
If I didn't know better, I'd say you missed the wrath, Bennett said. What happened to my living nightmare?
Leave me the fuck alone, Bennett, okay? For 5 minutes. Alex wiped the smile from his face as he turned around.
Jesus, Al.
We can't risk Chief Mary's people finding the body,
Felix said, turning to Bennett.
Would you mind?
You want me to carry him?
Alex needs to be ready for any more guards, and I would need to use wrath to carry him. You're huge. What's the problem?
Felix asked. Unable to look to Alex for support, Bennett muttered,
Whatever,
and hoisted the security guard over his shoulders in a fireman's carry.
Cripes! The guy got sand in his pockets?
He used to be a Lostros. They're hefty,
Felix said, hurrying down the hall with Alex while Bennett fought to keep pace.
Assholes. Cocksuckers. Shit kickers.
The doors they passed in the tan hall, in a variety of sizes and colors, were made of wildly different materials and radiated potent shades of Eve. The first they came upon was what Bennett had sensed from Nigel, dread. Bennett couldn't be sure, but he swore he heard not one, but several people screaming bloody murder inside the room beyond the tall black door. Since Felix moved on without a hitch, he decided to ignore it and do the same. Next was a door soaked in the same canary yellow shade of Eve as the bartender who'd given him the mug of moss, and also the security guard currently hoisted over his shoulders. This energy came with a heavy, morose feeling. Again, Bennett heard strange noises from inside. This time, scores of people wailing.
"Excuse me, but what exactly is happening in these rooms?"
he called.
These are the kingdom chambers,
Felix answered.
Folks come here to feel a little bit of the old life. Be like their old selves, back before we were stripped of our Eve and banished in the purge.
What happened? Alex asked up ahead.
You ever hear of Infurious, Wilbur?
Felix said. The war between heaven and hell?
Oh, right. I'm still getting used to this new age heaven and hell stuff,
Felix said.
I guess that's right, at least from a human perspective. It also explains why you reacted so strangely when you found out I was Archfiend, or Demon. Many of the stories you've heard about us over your human years are probably wrong.
Is it true they like to eat us?
Bennett asked.
Some of them do. Okay, bad first example. The point is, when Infurious ended, us unearthed humans were the ones deemed traitors, or enemies of the state, or any one of 1,000 other ridiculous labels the tribunal came up with for people they wanted out of the way, and each and every kingdom went along with it. Assholes.
Felix finished with a shake of his head.
Isaiah said the war ended 2,000 years ago. That's how long you've been on Earth?
Bennett asked.
Sounds like a long time when you put it like that,
Felix said. Bennett felt a twitch in his spine, making him stumble. It was a whisper, same as the night he got the wings, but at the same time a dominating presence.
Whoa, we're getting close to something powerful.
It felt like an army of others like himself were around the next corner, others with rapture.
Here we are,
Felix said, stopping in front of a hulking door. The trim was composed of hard geometric shapes, seemingly made of glass, but shimmering more like mirror or platinum. A violet and orchid blue haze danced in the material as Bennett moved by it. When he stood still, so did the colors in the glass. What's in here? Alex asked. Felix took the door handle and twisted it down.
This is the still room.
When he pressed forward, breaching the door, Bennett was overcome by a sudden cold wave inside his mind. A sense of rigid strength overcame him. His spine popped and straightened as an enormous breath that he wasn't ready for filled his lungs. Whatever was behind the silver door was as bright as a sunny day, pouring holy light into the murky hall and making Bennett feel as though he'd been dropped into a rapid river of ice and swept away.
Stop! Close it! Now!
Alex shouted from behind, reduced to a knee, holding his head as if he got struck by a rogue hockey puck.
It's okay, Alex.
Felix put a reassuring hand on his shoulder.
That's just your wrath reacting. It's not hurting you. Know what I mean?
Alex's body was quaking. I'll wait here. Felix shook his head.
It's not safe. Someone's bound to come by.
Sorry, Al.
Bennett agreed.
Yeah, I bet you are,
Alex said coarsely, fighting to rise to his feet.
Before you go in there, just prepare yourselves.
Yeah. Felix nodded before stepping inside. Bennett was the first to follow him and cross the threshold into the luminous room, feeling an instant pressure envelop him and hold him in place by an invisible force like molasses, crushing on all sides. It was uncomfortable, restricting, and bringing on serious claustrophobia. Fighting forward, he saw something he thought possible only in dreams. The landscape was stark white, yet easy on the eyes. Glimmers of the same blue and violet as the door danced like smooth, soft bolts of lightning across the floor and ceiling. Apart from the streams of color, there were no visible features anywhere, no structures. Bennett was staring into wide-open nothingness. He heard a moan from Alex and turned to find him on the ground, crawling through the threshold. Bennett set the guard down, and he and Felix helped the teacher inside. Shutting the door, Felix said, "We should be safe for a few minutes. Take it slow. Being in here ain't easy for any of us. Luckily, it never needs cleaning, so I never have to cross the threshold." "Why do I feel like this?" Alex asked desperately. "Still rooms are also called high-wind rooms," Felix started. "They're designed to mimic the conditions of the land of the Celestials. While there's no way to actually recreate the planes of high-wind in this reality frequency, places like this can help ease some of their homesickness." "I can't breathe," Alex coughed out.
"Yeah, you can. It's just hard,"
Bennett said, fighting for his own breath. The air he did manage to get was stifling and tasted centuries old. "Where's this friend?" Alex asked with no signs of patience left. "Let's find him and get the hell out of here." Bennett studied their surroundings.
"There's no one here."
"Yes, there is," Felix said with a sly grin. "There's a lot in here. We just have to know what we're looking for." Making the come on signal, he started into the brilliant, empty landscape. The march was a fight as the cold of rapture filled Bennett's lungs, though this time as it flowed through him, he didn't feel the same sense of fear. He glanced back at Alex, who was trailing behind, reduced to grunting out of annoyance.
"If this is all a trick, Felix, and there's no one here, and you're crazy, I'm going to be very pissed,"
Bennett said. Felix offered no reply, and they continued their march. Just when Bennett was about to halt and declare that he and Alex were officially out and would return to the Rose, a shot rang through the soldier. His Eve senses went into overdrive, like the same river of ice he felt when the door was opened had struck him again, multiplied tenfold. The presence he'd sensed outside was near. "There!" Felix said, pointing at what looked like nothingness. A small shape began to show itself, as though layers of lace were pulled away by an unknown wind, revealing a figure seated on the ground, her legs crossed. As Bennett approached, he saw she was wearing a black leather jacket, almost as weathered as Isaiah's coat, and a sweatshirt, hood up, with dark jeans and tattered boots. She was leaning forward, letting her jet black hair dangle above a bright silver belt buckle she wore. When the others approached, she didn't seem to notice. Felix double-timed it, waving excitedly. "Hey! Hannah!" The sensations coursing through Bennett were overwhelming. Every step closer to her was like wading farther into the deep end of a pool. Arriving at the woman's side, Bennett could see her eyes were closed. As bright as it was in the still room, he dared not close his own eyes, or even blink, fearing what kind of power he might see when he looked at her. "Hey, Hannah! What's going on? Remember me? It's your old pal. Sorry, are you like meditating or?" Felix made a rotating circle with his pointer fingers. After a beat or two, she calmly took a breath and spoke. "Felix, as nice as it is to see you, please keep your voice down. I'm not the only one in here looking for peace and quiet." "Oh, sorry. Righto." Felix winced and quieted himself down, finishing with a salute. "Righto." Hannah opened her eyes and turned to Felix, her blank guise giving way to a warm smile. "Hello, old friend," she said. Felix knelt by her side. He and Hannah placed their right hands on one another's shoulders, connecting foreheads, and rested in peace a moment. As a duly appointed representative of La Rose Noir, it is my duty to inform you your time in the still room has expired, Felix said. Please exit the premises and go get some sun, old lady. I knew you'd open with that, Hannah said, finally turning to Felix's companions. When her eyes set on Bennett, he found they were fantastically vibrant, sharing the same streaks of color as the still room. Staring into them made Bennett feel like he were dropping in an elevator, if only from their beauty, which rivaled any sunrise or sunset he had ever seen.
It's like looking into one of the 9 wonders of the world.
To whom do I owe the pleasure? She asked. Felix turned around with a sudden rigidity, as though introducing royalty. Gentlemen, this is Celestial Hannah of Cross Station, General of Inferius, in service of the army of Michael, hero of Highwind, and... Felix turned a beaming smile her way. My friend. I'm Alex, the teacher said.
I'm Bennett. We're human,
Bennett said, immediately feeling stupid after. Hannah gave them a once-over and turned away. I can see that, but as Felix would have told you if he'd remembered to, I don't like to be disturbed. Frankly, you don't belong here. She finished, closed her eyes, and returned to a resting position.
Trust us, we know that,
Bennett said. Felix waved his hands in front of her face. Come on! Come on! We went through a lot to get here. People are after us. Where's the Hannah who did all that stuff I just mentioned? None of this has anything to do with her, Hannah answered. Madame Daphne was going to let the doctor turn these guys into sashimi. I had to get them out, Felix Whisper shouted. Again, not my concern. Please. Alex struggled to even speak. I just want to get back to my wife and child. Can you help us? I don't do problems anymore, kid. Sorry, Hannah said.
These are no ordinary circumstances,
Bennett jumped in.
We've been sent by the tribunal to catch Joseph, the demon. You've heard of him, haven't you?
No, but it sounds like a job for the Medolians, not me. Hannah motioned behind them. You should get going. I can hear Chief Mary and her squad coming for you. They sound irritated. If that's true, we need to go, Alex called, on the verge of tears. Bennett hated that he felt the same way, as Hannah did not sound inclined to help them, and it could take forever to get back to the door.
Why would Felix bring us in here? This feels like a trap. A dead end at best.
Hannah, please. These guys need some help, Felix begged as Alex started back. Whatever it is, it doesn't involve me. Nothing should anymore. Leave me be, Hannah said. Bennett and Felix shared a desperate glance. The soldier bowed his head and started the same direction as Alex. Guys, wait! Felix shouted, full-voiced. Tell her who sent you, specifically. Bennett turned back.
Isaiah? Why?
Hannah opened her eyes to face Bennett. You must be mistaken.
Nope. Old wrinkled guy? Smelly? Gray knitted cap? Ring a bell?
Hannah uncrossed her legs and rose to her feet, now eye to eye with the soldier, who took a glance at her belt buckle. Depicted across the front was an eye, its lids well defined and iris shimmering. 6 orbs encircled it, 3 on top, 3 on bottom. Hannah turned to Felix with a new fire in her eyes. The tribunal ordered the Medolians to use humans for an exorcism? Did the Senate approve this?
It gets a lot weirder than that,
Felix replied.
Everyone's talking about it. Where you been?
Here, Hannah said, catching Bennett staring at the buckle. He struck his gaze when a boom in the distance echoed over the white plains.
That was the door.
They're in, Bennett said, feeling a host of signatures approaching, Chief Mary's shade the most potent among them. What was your mission? Hannah asked Bennett and Alex.
Find the imp, get it out of the kid, deliver it to the tribunal, prevent a war, save the day,
Bennett answered. Guess that explains the wrath and rapture within you, Hannah said. We didn't ask for it. They put it there, Alex said. None of this makes sense. Someone's lying, Hannah said quietly.
That's what we've been saying.
Bennett could sense the security detail getting closer.
There's no way out of this.
He was feeling stronger, but knew he, Alex, and Felix couldn't take on a whole squad of beefed-up unearthed security by themselves.
Though I wouldn't mind trying out some moves on that Chief Mary.
What about me, Hannah? Felix said, sounding panicked. If they catch us, I won't just lose this job. Know what I mean? Do you have any idea what you're asking of me? Hannah barked, turning away. What treaties or agreements have been made that I could violate? If the Senate made the order, you know exactly who's pulling the strings. Do you not remember anything from Infurious? Stupid mistakes start wars, not single archfiend acting alone. You're the one who said Isaiah doesn't make mistakes, Felix prodded. I don't think these two coming here tonight was one either. Hannah got quiet and narrowed her eyes at him. Bennett could hear shouting in the distance. Chief Mary and her team had found their scent and would be arriving any second.
Hopefully they have just as hard a time finding stuff in here as we did.
Hannah remained, her head lowered in contemplation. Miss? Alex chimed in. I had a life. I think Bennett did too. But then we were supposed to die. Now we have this second chance. I get that we're just dumb humans, but I do want to help. Then I want to go home. Isaiah chose us. We're still not sure why, but we're on our own till he comes back.
Something big is going on, and we need to know who the good guys in all this are,
Bennett finished.
Over here,
someone shouted in the distance. Bennett turned and found foggy figures approaching.
Balls.
Felix, Alex, and Bennett waited for an answer from Hannah. She lowered her head and sighed. Oh, Felix. If, and I do mean if, I help you out of this, the first thing you will do is tell me everything. Got it? No secrets. Whatever you say, Felix agreed for them. Bennett could make out Chief Mary leading her team, like a mirage in the desert.
Anything else?
He asked Hannah. She turned her gaze from the Rose security to Bennett and Alex, studying them for a moment longer. Very well. Felix hurried to Hannah's side, placing a hand on her shoulder. Hop on, guys!
Hop on? What do you mean? How the hell are we getting out of here?
Bennett shouted as he and Alex fought the intense pressure and gravity to cross to Hannah. Doing as told, each placed a hand on her shoulder, and Bennett found her brilliant gaze fixed on him just before she closed her eyes. Haven't taken 4 in some time, she said. Hold still. Wouldn't want to lose anyone. What was that? Alex asked as the white energy of a shift wrapped around them.
Oh, not this again.
The ground fell away from under Bennett's feet. The sensation of traveling at 1,000,000,000 miles an hour overtook him, and the earth passed below, their destination unknown.